Uh, Dr. Inderjit Kaur is a scholar of Gurbani Kirtan and assistant professor of musicology at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. She has published and presented widely for the academy as well as the community. She is currently working on an academic book on the historical, performative, and experimental aspects of Sabbath Kirtan. He holds two doctoral degrees, both from University of California, Berkeley, one ethnomusicology and a prior one in economics. He has earned senior diplomas in North Indian classical music and South Indian classical dance. Singing Shabad Kirtan has been an integral part of her whole life. Many of you may not know, he was also the architect of Sri Hemakund Foundation Kirtan competition that we hold every year. He was the one who was drafted 2006 to make all the rules and regulations for that competition, and that has been a very great contribution to our youth. We're thankful to her for that. And today the talk that she's going to present to us is titled Bisam, Bisam, Bisam Hi Pai Hai, The Wonders of Wonder. So from Gurbani. So
Yeah, it can just come from my.
saw many people walk out. I just want to announce that we have arrangement for a sit dinner in the South Hall after the conference at 6 o'clock. So please all, you're all invited there. Please be there. We don't want to waste good food. Please be there. Thank you.
That's it. Where is the sticker? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's really a pleasure to be here at this important conference that runs every year. Now it's the 7th year to celebrate our Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So congratulations to the Sangat and to the organizers, the Sevadars. Thank you to Indermohan Singh Ji for inviting me. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah? All right, great. We had a little audio issue because I have some Kirtan samples, so we need one of the mics down here. Anyway, so the topic of my talk is about wonder or awe, and it is a topic that appears in the Guru Granth Sahib a lot. And those of us, and many of you here, are really very are Gursikhs in the sense of reading Gurbani, understanding it, being regular with it. So I'm sure you have come across shabads that talk about wonder and awe, Bisam, Achraj. So I want to talk about that today, and there are many aspects of it. I want to focus specifically on how wonder helps us in our daily, everyday ethics. And what do I mean by everyday ethics? Just small things, you know. We're crossing the street, we see someone who's having trouble crossing the street for one reason or the other. Maybe they're elder, maybe they're too young to be alone crossing. Do we have the time to stop and attend to that person? Simple things like that. We are in a social occasion. Do we always overlook the person who's not important, who's not wealthy, who's not powerful? So simple things that Gurbani teaches, and the previous talks have really pointed to those powerful, everyday, ethical directions that are there in Guru Granth Sahib. So, what's the role of wonder? What does Gurbani tell us? That will be the first part of my talk. And then I'll talk a little bit from scholarship, from academic scholarship in cognitive studies. So it used to be that studies in psychology and cognitive sciences were very focused on the study of negative emotions. Those were easier to study. When we are angry, what do we do? When we are jealous, what do we do? And so the focus on sort of psychopathologies was central. But more recently, there has been interest in positive emotions, and they are harder to study because they are not as extreme, or the reactions to them are not so as large as those two negative emotions. But the research, interestingly, that has been done lines up so well with Gurbani, I was astounded. And so in the second part of my talk, I want to bring in that scholarship on what are scholars, and this is research from UC Berkeley, where I studied. How does wonder affect our daily ethics? All right. And then as I was preparing this talk, I thought, well, being a musicologist and a scholar of Shabad Kirtan, I should have some music and musical sound in my talk. And so instead of reading the Bani, I will be playing recordings of the Bani for you. And that's why we needed the sound already. So first I want to just play a little video that is, the purpose of which is to show us how we feel wonder. So I invite you to feel wonder, and also to notice the role of sound, the role of musical sound in this. I'll just play it for a few seconds. Can you hear the sound in the back? So typically, when we come across something in nature that is vast, that seems infinite, that seems very powerful, then emotions of wonder and awe are aroused in us. It can also happen with art, very beautiful art, different types of artistic expressions. It can also happen when we meet a very powerful person. And I'll talk a little bit about the ethical implications of awe. Am I doing that? Okay, I see. So, ethical implications of awe or wonder for a person versus awe or wonder for Vaheguru. Talk just a little bit about that later. Okay, so we do experience awe in our lives in certain situations, and Guru Sahib tells us to feel awe and wonder for Vaheguru. And the way Gurbani does that is through the description of Vaheguru and the absolutely awesome attributes of Vaheguru. So I'm going to play a little bit of a Shabad that talks about how Bisam is generated in us. So, Gurbani is telling us that Bisam is produced when we listen, sunte. What do we listen to? Bahobid. Bahobid sunte. Many, many ways. And in the previous talk, Dr. Sangeeta Luthra was talking about diversity. diversity of the way we practice Sikhi, the ways that um, the different ways of interpreting Gurbani. And actually, Gurbani itself says that there are many ways, bahubid. So to understand Vaheguru, and Vaheguru itself is ik, but within that ik is anek. Within that ik is infinity. And so we have this issue, this notion of infinity and diversity within the ik Vaheguru. That's basic to Gurbani. So bahubid, different ways of how Vaheguru is diverse. And the very word Vaheguru, it is a composite word of Vah e Guru. It's a Persian composite. And Vah, as we all know, is an expression of appreciation, and we can translate it as wow. But if we look at the different words that are used in Gurbani for Vaheguru, Beant, Saravyapi, Anup, Atol, Agad, Agam Agochar, Kehna Kathan na jaye, indescribable, Avinasi, Antarjami. These are just a few. So the expressions for Vaheguru, the attributes of Vaheguru point towards this kind of infinity, this infinite potential, this infinite ability. And if we think about nature and that expanse, Vaheguru as being even more expansive than that. So as we listen to different Shabads, we come across these attributes of Vaheguru. Vaheguru is also awesome because Vaheguru is a moral ideal par excellence. And that is my point today, relating to ethics. Vaheguru is Guni Gahir, a notion of moral virtues. Vaheguru is Data Datar, epitome of munificence and largesse, and Meherban, benevolent. So, and there are many, many more. I think those of you who know Gurbani probably can think of so many words for Vaheguru. So, of all the wonders that nature offers to us, the wonder of wonders is Vaheguru. That is the first point I want to make. Now, one of the wonders from the ethical point of view is about Vaheguru is that Vaheguru liberates. That's the point. So I chose, instead of quoting many Shabads, to just focus on one or two. And so the point I want to make here is that Vaheguru is awesome because Vaheguru liberates. Aise gur ko bal bal jaye, aap mukt mohe tare. Again, we were talking about translations and how to translate gur and guru. But I find that as I play with different interpretations, as I allow myself to think about different interpretations, it just enriches my understanding of Gurbani. It's really not one angle. It's just multiple ways of thinking. So if we were to think of Gur as a technique, well, yes, the technique that liberates us. If you want to think of Guru as Guru, the human gurus, or Guru Granth Sahib, that's fine. If you want to think of Guru as Vaheguru, Sadguru, that's fine. So all those angles can come together to enrich and strengthen the way we understand Gurbani. Aise gur ko bal bal jaye, aap mukat mohe tare. So Vaheguru is liberated, and we know Ajuni is, when we do the Mool Mantar, we know that Vaheguru is beyond the creation, yet within creation. Aap mukat mohe tare. So let's see. And I have again a musical sample to experience the musical, how musically that sense of wonder is deepened. So when we listen to music, and I'll make that point just in a minute, it changes our sense of time, the way that time passes. If we stare at a clock and watch the seconds go by, we'll experience time differently. We listen to music in different rhythms, we'll experience time differently. If you're looking at something beautiful, time stops, right? We experience time differently. So all these are different ways of experiencing time, and wonder makes us also experience time differently. And that has ethical implications that I'll come to. Now, so one wonder of Vaiguru that I was focusing on is that Vaiguru liberates from the shackles of Maya, the shackles of everyday attachments. But what happens from that wonder? What are the wonders of that wonder of being liberated? Right? Bisam 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 hi pai hai, lal gulal rangare, dyed in the deep crimson color of my beloved. When we can actually submerge ourselves in that feeling of wonder, if we can really get into it, we get colored in the color of the beloved. Kau Nanak santan ras aaye hai, jo chak gunga muskare. Then we get that ras, the santan ras. Now again here I would translate this differently. Says Nanak, the saints savor this sublime essence like the mute who tastes the sweet candy but only smiles. I would say, I taste the ras of the saints. I taste that when I am in Bisam and that lal rang comes, I am tasting that ras that the sons have. I am tasting har ras, Ram ras, Amrit ras, right? And so these are the wonders. And what does it mean to be colored? What does it mean to have that ras? I feel, and through my research, these are not just metaphors. These are actually physical sensations in the body. And I feel that when we say that a certain ras is flowing in us from the love of Vaheguru, we are actually saying that our blood flows, our hormonal flows, the flows of our lymphatic system, interstitial tissues, all those are flowing in a way that we feel rang, we feel that lali, So this is a physical sensation of feeling the love for Vaheguru. But how is it different from the other? Well, that is where the Vaheguru's attributes and the moral excellence comes in, that we feel those in our body. And so that is the wonder of feeling wonder for Vaheguru, is to experience wholly with that color and ras, the attributes of Vaheguru. I think I have 5 minutes left. Okay, so I'm going to shift to cognitive studies now. In the scholarship, there are two main benefits that have been listed, and I have here the links that you can go and look and study this scholarship in greater detail. One of the recent studies has shown that when we feel wonder, and these studies are not for religious wonder only, they are for feeling wonder for nature, for art, and include wonder in the spiritual sense, that it promotes actually healthier levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the body, which are the proteins that signal the immune system to work harder. And sustained high levels of cytokines are associated with poorer health and such disorders as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, and even Alzheimer's disease and clinical depression. So if we are feeling negative emotions, the cytokines will be high and we'll have health problems. But if we have positive emotions like wonder, then the cytokines are at a healthier level and there are health benefits. But I want to focus more on the ethical side today. And research shows that the emotion of wonder actually makes people less self-focused and more altruistic. And what is the reason that it does that? So I'm going to explain this little chart here. When we feel awe for something, we feel awe for something that is really enormous, vast, infinite. And when we do that, we get a sense of feeling small, of being smaller, so that ego diminishes. We feel, therefore, less individualistic. We feel a larger power. So we feel part of a larger power and we feel smaller. And so this is related to humility. And then, so that directly relates to ethic. But then awe also works towards ethics through its effect on time. And how does it do that? When we are feeling awe for something, we get really engrossed in the present moment. If we are feeling awe, we are not aware of what's happening around. We are just there in that moment. And so time has expanded, it's standing still. This expanded sense of time, scholars say, generates greater generosity. And this is quite intuitive. If we are stressed out, we really don't have time for someone else. We don't have time to stop and help someone, if we are rushing to college or to our work and we see someone's grocery bag fell apart and the groceries have fallen. We might say, oh, but I'll be late for my meeting, I just can't stop. But if it takes probably 30 seconds to help someone in that situation. And so scholars are saying that when we immerse ourselves in such feelings of wonder, our sense of time starts to expand. We feel less stressed. And in these small, teeny tiny ways of how we live our lives, we become more generous. Also, the time that it takes to process awe creates more awe. That also slows time down. So we have this feedback loop of how awe, through the changing the sense of time, helps ethics. Okay, coming back to Gurbani then. And again, I want to use the example of Shabad Kirtan because music, as I said, affects our sense of time and thereby works in the ways I just talked about. So Shabad, we know, is Gurbani. In Shabad, we have awe through Gurbani. We have actually also an exposition of time. Ik kadi na milte ta kaljug hota, right? So a kadi and kaljug can switch very easily, right? So Guru Sahib is telling us that our experience of time is really subjective and it's not clock time, right? So we, through Gurbani, and then of course there's a lot of ethics in Gurbani that we've talked about, but these are accentuated when we sing Gurbani in Kirtan, because there we have Gurbani, which is Shabad, and Kirtan is devotional singing. So we combine it with that devotional expression, and we have the music, which affects our sense of time. And so Kirtan is the means by which greater wonder can be generated for Vaheguru, because it affects our sense of time. I think I am reaching the end of my time. So I will just wrap up, if I may just play this little sample. And here I want to, this is a little clip of a alap where the side ragi here with Bhai Harjinder Singh is singing about the apar gun of Vaheguru. And just see how the voice goes up and how the ah sound elaborates on apar. So this is an example of how awe is helped by the musical means. So we have Gurbani, we have devotion, and we have music. With that, I'll conclude to just reiterating the point that there are, Vaheguru is the wonder of wonders, and one of the wonders of having wonder for Vaheguru is that our sense of time, and through that, our orientation toward everyday ethics can be improved. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I didn't get any questions, but in case anybody has a question, please let us know. And Sangeeta ji, maybe just speak louder.
If through your studies, how were the gurus conscious of the role of music in promoting this other state of consciousness or wonder? And if you could talk about that, have you found that?
Absolutely. I think it's in very clear terms that Guru Sahibs have espoused the method of Kirtan. Har Kirtan sune, har Kirtan gaye, tis janduk nikat nahi aaye, Kaljug mein Kirtan pardana. And also, if you search for gaviye, suniye, and one will see that these modes of expression come up, and really Guru Sahib has time and again said, this is the way to get bhakti, this is the way to experience Vaheguru, this is the way to experience Harras, this is the way to get Lali, that rang. So I think it is quite clear in, and I think, and again, it's interesting, this topic came up in your talk as well, as to, what is better and what is, a good technique, etc. And I think that, Guru Sahibs actually, didn't give us too many of do's and don'ts in terms of 1, 2, 3, or do Naam Jap first and keep. In fact, those are, socially constructed norms. But Gurbani allows us to sort of take from it these directions. And there are times when Guru Sahibs do give directions. In fact, when I was reading the translations of the Shabad, I heard someone said, when it says, Kaho Nanak, it's not says Nanak. Nanak is actually saying that Vaheguru is saying to Nanak, Kaho Nanak, go ahead and say this, and in fact sing this, because that's the mode that Guru Nanak adopted, right? And actually, it's also interesting to think of the word pado, because we always say Shabad pado ji, right? And parna is reading, parna is chanting, parna is singing, and I think that these words, and of course, not to say, and you're an anthropologist, so I should add this, that dekhya, dekh, pek, these are there also, in terms of understanding. But in terms of experiencing and articulating, I think Gavye and Suniye are really, really emphasized in Gurbani. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Have a question?
There's a mic here if you want to grab it. Or, okay, great.
If there is a clear mapping, there is a limitation about what in a certain where all covered.
Thank you. That's a great question. Let me start. First of all, there is. I have seen on the internet people have posted these rags of Gurbani have these emotions, and I don't think I've seen a scholarly study that maps rags to emotions. But to say academics scholarly study, community scholars, yes, of course. So for Gurbani, we don't have that. But musicologists have spent a lot of time trying to study the emotions related to rags in the context of Indian classical music. And they found nothing, no association that they could prove. So it's a very contentious issue. And the way I see it, it's to do with habit and association. You know, if you come to my house for dinner and I serve you Cheerios, you know, you're not going to enjoy it most likely. Maybe some people will. But we like cereal for breakfast, right? And similarly, it became, and actually a lot of these practices were from earlier Hindu ritual practices, that Bhairav Rag was sung in the morning, Jago Mohan Pyare, while the milk was being offered to the idol. And so it came about that Bhairav should be sung in the morning. I sing it anytime I feel as great, and I feel those emotions. The emotions I feel are often related to how I am interpreting Gurbani at that moment, what's happening to me, to my life. Also, there's another interesting thing which should be kept in mind. One rag is rarely associated with one emotion. It's associated with a set of emotions. And so singing it differently, singing it in different contexts, singing it with different lyrics can actually bring about more strongly one of those sets of emotions. Or it could just bring about something totally different. So my personal viewpoint as a scholar is that I think that these are things that we develop associations with. There isn't an inherent kind of quality about the pitches or the combination of pitches that gives that emotion. But we are used to it. Agar komal re lag rahi hoye, we are used to it. That is used more for maybe somber, sad occasions. So we feel that. If there certain, the Shuddha Gaur with Pa is associated with maybe, more positive or expansive emotions. So that's my take on it. But this is a contentious issue in both Indian classical Hindustani music. And interestingly, Carnatic music has no time associations, or they do have some mood associations, but they are also more fluid. So that's an answer. Thank you for that question.
Okay, with that, let's thank Dr.
Right.
Inderjit Kaur. Thank you very much. Bole So Nihal.